This episode is sponsored by Kerkering Barberio, your trusted partner in tax, audit, and outsourced accounting services. Serving Sarasota, Manatee, and the greater Tampa Bay area for over 50 years, KB helps clients achieve their personal and business goals. Visit kbgrp.com to learn more. Mike Sutton gets the assignment, a nonprofit CEO who runs his organization, Habitat for Humanity Tampa Bay Gulfside, like a business. The Business Observer writes regularly about nonprofits and how they intersect with the business community. For more stories like this, subscribe to the Business Observer. Go to businessobserverfl.com to sign up. Hello and welcome to the Business Observer from the Corner Office podcast. I'm Mark Gordon, managing editor of the Business Observer. Today's guest is Mike Sutton, Habitat for Humanity Tampa Bay Gulfside CEO. Mike, welcome and thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Mark. Really appreciate it.
Well, it's going to be a good conversation. We're going to talk a little bit about Habitat for Humanity, what you guys do, and also your leadership career and different leadership tip. But let's get our audience to know you a little bit more with some kind of offbeat questions to start, some rapid fire questions.
All right.
Okay. What is the best thing or your favorite thing to cook or bake or prepare?
Oh gosh, I'm horrible at cooking or baking. So for me, I do a lot of factor meals, and so it's literally you pop it in the microwave and it's done in 3 minutes.
Excellent. But you have a system though. Process and system is good. Maybe we'll talk about that with leadership, right? Like process and system is important.
100%.
Yeah. All right, next question. What is the most used app on your phone?
I would say it's a tie between probably Facebook, unfortunately, and my child's daycare app.
So my son is 16, so I didn't have apps when I was. But what do you get? What is on the app for your child's daycare?
Oh, it's actually really cool. So it updates you all throughout the day. Every time something, every time he eats, every time he has to be changed, they take photos and send you photos throughout the day. So it's, and it's probably one of the only ones that I have the push notifications on. So it automatically comes up. So that's why I said I probably am on that a lot. So
yes. Well, good plan with the push notification. Not having that on that app because obviously it's your child, but not having it on the other apps. That's the notifications is like one of the worst inventions. It's so distracting.
It's horrible. I had to turn it off for any social media accounts.
100%.
It's just,
Same.
It's a distraction.
Same. One more question on the quick question. When you're at your best for your day, what's a good morning routine? What is a morning routine that sets you up well for the day?
So I'm an early to rise and early in the office guy. So I get more work done between 7 and 9 a.m. than I probably do the rest of the day. So for me, it's getting a good night rest and feeling. I know when I have a good night rest because I pop right out of bed. Literally, the alarm goes off. I don't have to snooze. I get up, get a shower, and I'm rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
I don't drink coffee, ironically, either. So for me, it's like I just immediately get going when I get some good sleep.
Yeah, excellent. We have that in common. I do not drink coffee either. Okay, all right. We're going to get into a Habitat. Before tell us just a little bit more about yourself. Tell us about growing up and what your childhood was like, and then how you got into the nonprofit sector.
Sure. So I grew up in the Tampa Bay region, in North Tampa, and went to Gaither High School. And when I graduated from high school, I ended up staying home for college. So I went to the University of South Florida in Tampa. For me, I grew up in a middle class neighborhood in North Tampa. Parents provided, my sister and I were very blessed. And while I was in college at USF, I ended up working for the YMCA in Tampa at their Center City YMCA in Tampa Heights. And it was really my first exposure to poverty at an extreme level. And being exposed to that and being around kids who mostly were fatherless, you could just tell that as a male, you almost immediately became a male role model to these kids just by showing a little bit of interest in them and asking how their day went. And so I got hooked uh, by working at the Y because I saw that there was this opportunity to impact people's lives. I never had the intention to go into the nonprofit sector. I just kind of fell into it by working at the YMCA. And so my career goal was to actually go off and work in like a federal law enforcement type environment. I wanted to be the cool FBI agent, growing up,
Yeah.
and I just went this nonprofit route, and that's where I've been my entire career.
Excellent. And I know you've been with a couple of habitats, and tell us
Yeah,
specifically about Tampa Bay Gulfside. But for those who don't know, I mean, I think the branding is pretty strong with Habitat for Humanity. At least
yeah,
as an outsider, I think it is. I don't know about an insider, but
sure.
what's the mission? What's for those who don't know, what's the mission and vision of Habitat?
Yeah, so for our organization, what we do is we really focus around serving families that would not normally have the opportunity to own their own home. So they typically make too much, they have too much income to qualify for government assistance, but they don't make enough to qualify for a traditional home loan. And so through the Habitat for Humanity program, we offer them a zero interest mortgage. They do 38 homebuyer education classes. They also perform sweat equity, working on habitat homes as well as the home of their own. They do things like painting and landscaping and installing baseboards and windows and doors. And then once they've completed all those classes and all those hours, they purchase the house from Habitat. Zero down payment. They contribute towards closing costs, and they purchase the home with a zero interest mortgage. So we're providing them the opportunity to break the cycle of poverty by building generational wealth through home ownership.
And what is your role, obviously, as leader of the organization, but maybe day to day, tell us a little bit about kind of what you do as the leader of the organization.
Well, when I got in this morning, I actually mopped the front foyer at our office because people had brought in some mud. So my day looks different every day. So today I started off by mopping, right? The majority of the work that I do, however, is externally focused. So I do a lot of work with our elected officials on a local and state level. I do a lot of work with our donors. And encouraging folks to support us financially. I'm obviously responsible for the day to day. But what I will say is, I have a phenomenal team here at Habitat, about 80 employees. That over the years I've been here has really continued to morph into an amazing group of people. My executive leadership team does a phenomenal job of carrying out their roles, which allows me to even be more present out in the community.
Yeah. Well, and you talk about, mopping the floors, and maybe that's obviously an example of servant leadership. And hey, someone's got to do this, so I'm here. I know how to mop, so
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. And so I want to talk about metrics for a minute, because you
Yeah.
guys have gone through some pretty big growth periods. 5
Mhm.
million in revenue to more than 35 million, and as you said, 80 employees from 20 a few years ago.
Yeah.
And you're building some 80 homes a year.
Yeah.
That's a sizable operation. As a organizational leader, what were some of the tipping points that have allowed you to
Yeah.
scale at this rate?
Yeah, so when I was hired, my background has really been in fundraising. So whether it was with the YMCA, Big Brothers Big Sisters, or even Habitat in a previous Habitat organization out in Texas, my background was raising funds and community engagement. And so when the board hired me here in 2013, the goal was, hey, we want to serve more families and build sustainability for the long term. And so we immediately set to work on how do we scale up. Our organization had built 20 homes a year every year for probably about 10 years. And our board really wanted to see us serve more families year over year. We've had 11 straight years of growth, going from 20 homes a year to we'll probably serve somewhere between 85 and 90 families this year. And we've grown our revenue from that 5 million. I would say we'll probably hit 38 to 39 million in revenue this year. And so, really, I would say the number one tipping point here was really getting the right team involved, right, and the right team to buy into that growth. When you're a new leader and you come into an organization, especially as a first time CEO, I think there's a lot of questioning of like, what's this guy's motive? What is he doing? What kind of decisions is he going to make? And so I really had to to spend some time getting to know the team, getting to know the staff, getting to understand who's going to buy into the mission, and the business aspect of running a nonprofit. We might be a 501c3 by tax status, but it's not a business model, right? And so it's not a sustainable one anyway. And so we really spent a lot of time building the culture here at Habitat and building a team that we invest in and that grows with us. My senior team, the majority of them have been with me for 5 to 7 years now. And so, the first couple of years were a challenge, but once we got the right people on the team, and we were able to do that, again, going from 20 to 80 people, I mean, that's 60 new positions in 10 years. So there's a lot of also growth opportunity. So if you look at the 8 people on my senior team, everyone except one has been promoted onto that team. So they've come up through the ranks. They've done various roles. They've mopped the front foyer, and then moved into their leadership roles. So really proud of the work that we've done around that. The other piece, in addition to the talent, has really been the community partnerships. We recognize as an organization, we're just one solution to the affordable housing crisis, but we can't do it alone. And the partnerships with municipalities, with the counties we operate in, with state and government leaders, with private business, that's really what has helped to drive the mission of Habitat. And we've gotten the public or the private sector bought in and understanding that they can play a role in helping to provide more affordable housing for families so we can anchor them here in our community.
Yeah. Well, and going back to the employees, right? I mean, that's, as you said, you got to keep that culture intact, and you're going from 20 employees to 80 where there's more, specific roles and different roles. But as you
Yeah.
mentioned, also the leadership side, what did you look for? What have you looked for in leaders, whether you're promoting somebody at Habitat or hiring somebody in a role? What characteristics do you look for in good leaders?
So the number one is the culture fit. And, I came from probably that old school mindset of like, you always hire based on background and skill set, right? And I've come to learn over time. And by the way, Mark, this growth that we've had has also forced me to grow in ways that's been painful at times, but also very important, to grow with the organization. So I always look at culture fit number one before anything. I often, I feel like everything's people and processes, and a lot of times you can teach the people how to do the job, and how to make a widget, so to speak. What you can't teach people is a culture fit. And so, if people are gonna, be, hanging out at the water cooler and spreading gossip, or they're not bought into the mission, and they're everything in their mind is 9 to 5, they're probably not going to fit the culture of Habitat and the pace at which we work.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's yeah. Sometimes it takes a little bit to find that people, right? To be sure that that you have the right people.
Yeah, I had a mentor once tell me that I was going to have a lot more bad hires than I would good hires, in my career, and
Yeah.
so hopefully I got all those out of the way, right? And now, and I can honestly say our team today is the best team we've ever had. Phenomenal group of people, and we were recognized last year with a number of best places to work accolades, which is reflective of the culture that we have built here.
Yeah, the hiring thing you mentioned, the you've hired, hopefully gotten your not as good hires out of the way. It's an interesting thing to think about it that way, because when we hire somebody, we're always excited. Otherwise, we wouldn't have hired them, right? Like, you're bringing them onto your organization. Like, this person's great for this role, and then, as we learned, sometimes it's not the case.
Yeah, hire slow and terminate quickly, right? I mean, so and I think in the work environment, we too often do it opposite on both of those. We tend to hire people very quickly, and then we drag out a situation. If someone's not the right fit, you can't, there is the opportunity to find the right seat on the bus for them, but
Yeah.
sometimes they just don't belong on the bus, right?
And sometimes you have those, at least I've learned, you have those conversations after, right? They're no longer with your organization. You're like, man, we knew that 6 months ago. You kept digging that hole, not digging the hole, but trying to, the hedgehog, right? Trying to make this work. And we knew it wasn't going to work. And I get that. All All right, so take a step back too. You mentioned that you learned a lot as a CEO. What sort of lessons did you learn in terms of this growth, in terms of hiring and going on this growth track? What are some lessons you
Yeah.
learned personally?
I was having a conversation with a donor today about this, particularly actually. I think probably the number one thing I've learned over the 11 years as CEO here has been how to how to meet people where they are, right? I can't treat every employee the same way in terms of their personality style and how they receive information. So sometimes it's a matter of slowing down enough to understand how I need to communicate to folks and how to get points across or how to get them bought into situations. Um, and I really work at trying to be a softer and gentler Mike. When I was young in my career, especially in my 20s, man, it was like, get out of my way. I'm on a mission. I'm building more homes, whatever that looks like. And definitely over the last 6, 7 years, I've really tried to focus in on how to be the more softer, gentler Mike, and understand that sometimes people need to chat through things, or sometimes people need time to take things in to before they give feedback. And so that's been probably the uh, number one piece, and that really took a couple board members having conversation with me, um, uh, because I left a couple people probably bruised in the past, right? And so trying to navigate that on a regular basis is really important.
Yeah, and obviously it sounds like you had to be open to that as well, right? You have to have the mindset or the wherewithal to know that this is going to make you a better leader, right? When they approach you and said, "Hey, Mike, you need to be the softer, gentler Mike." And you mentioned that side of it. I'm curious if you dealt with, because this has come up before in a lot of people's leadership. The idea of meet people where they are, because some people are superstars and rock stars and some aren't. So how have you handled that side of, maybe there's more difficult conversations you have to have as opposed to the ones that are superstars that you don't have to have those difficult conversations? How do you balance that
Yeah.
as a
You
leader?
know, I've had some good success here at Habitat with folks that may not come off as a rock star, or they're maybe struggling in their position. Um, and we figure out by just doing some exercises and talking through it that they're just not in the right seat on the bus. And we're able to move some folks around, and it's amazing how people can flourish under the right leader, and with the right tasks in front of them. And so a lot of it really has been kind of flushing through that and making sure that people are in the right seat. We, my I'll give you an example, and he'll probably kill me for throwing him out there. But my executive vice president here at Habitat, he's been with me for 7 years. Great friend, great leader. He's done a phenomenal job. When we hired him, his first year and a half or 2 years, he was in a position that he was just set up to fail in. He didn't have a background in that position. It was brand new. There was no guidance, and it was kind of like, "Hey, go figure this out." And there was some struggles there. And I would think if he was sitting here talking to us, he would tell you he was not happy, right? Now he's a rock star, and he's my partner in a lot of external work that we do, and a lot of our government relations work. And it's really been because we've been able to find the right seat on the bus for him, and find the areas that he's really good at, and then
Yeah.
tap into that.
Excellent. You mentioned a few minutes ago about a mentor that taught you something. Who have some of your mentors been, and what is some leadership advice you have learned from them?
So I learned a while back that by not mentioning my mother first, I get in trouble with her. So my mom has been a phenomenal mentor.
Mrs.
Uh,
Sutton's got to be on here.
that's right. In addition to her, I've always taken the approach of kind of surrounding myself with people that are much smarter than me. Um, and I've always taken the approach of, constantly learning. There's a few folks that come to mind. A woman by the name of Nancy Ridenauer. She's a local CPA who really helped coach me through my role here at Habitat. Ed Drosty, who's one of the founders of Hooters, is a member of the same college fraternity as me. I met him when I was in college. He was an alum, and somebody who has never shied away from giving me extremely direct advice. And what I love about having mentors in my life are people who are going to be real with you, and they're going to be direct with you, but you can always tell that they're coming from a place of caring, right? Like they're trying to help you. And what's great about that is the two folks I just mentioned as examples. I never walk away from conversations with them like irritated or upset because they told me something that maybe I just didn't want to hear. Um, and I've also had some amazing board chairs. I get pretty close with my board chair. They're my boss for a couple of years at a time, and I've had some board chairs over the years that have been phenomenal partners and phenomenal leaders that have helped coach me through a lot of situations as well.
Yeah, that's excellent. A lot of different mentors. And so I wanted to ask a question going back to Habitat, but about what's coming up for Habitat for the year. Before we do that, take me through. I mean, we don't actually. This is episode. We're in the '90s here, recording a plug to the From the Corner office, and we've not had a Habitat for Humanity executive on. So you're our debut
All
on
right.
Habitat for the West Coast of Florida. Yes, but I'm curious about taking me through the experience that you've had being at a house. I've covered as a reporter. It's been years, but in Sarasota, I went to, I don't know what you guys called it, like a key ceremony
Yeah, like a home dedication.
dedication, and it's amazing, right? And there are tears, and it's just like it's, I don't want to say overwhelming, but it kind of is. It's like, so, but as an insider, right? Take us through what's that experience, and is there one that stands? It's like your children, you love all of them, but is there one that stands out more? What's that experience like at that day?
Yeah, so I've been a part of probably about 700 home dedications now, maybe 800 between here and in Texas. I always say it's the best 15 minutes of the day, like by far. But I will tell you that each individual one is unique in its own way. Every family that comes to us with a different story and a different background. And it's a day of celebration because when we hand those keys over, it's symbolic of breaking the cycle of poverty. So, uh, you know, uh, again, they're typically filled with joy. We always joke, even if it's raining out, wear your sunglasses because you got to hide the tears, right? Um, yeah, and you typically see in these families who have probably struggled for stability for a long time, there's a relief that takes place when they walk through that front door. And although it takes a while for it to set in that, hey, this is my new home, there is an immediate relief that you do see from them when they know that, hey, this is my stable home into the future. Uh, I've had, countless dedications that have moved me, that have validated, my involvement with Habitat or my commitment to Habitat. One of the most impactful dedications I've ever had, however, was a gentleman we built a home with. It was him and his wife and two kids. And he was a pastor at a African American church in town. And at the dedication, he pulled me aside and put his arm around me. And he was a jokester, and we had a lot of fun while he was in the program. But he actually pulled me in, and he was like, "I want to tell you something that was really important, and felt like it was on my heart to share with you. You're the very first white male I've ever trusted in my life." And it was so impactful, right? Um, a lot of times, we're interacting with people of all walks of life on a daily basis. And so, but to have someone who shared that moment with me and shared that with me, he said, you told me what Habitat was all about, and here we are at, 18 months later, getting our keys, and you kept your word. And I was very, reluctant to go through the program, and that was very, very impactful to me. It
Yeah.
was 11 years ago, but I remember it,
Wow.
and I often tell that story because I just think it's so cool.
Well, it is, and you're right. Impactful is the. I mean, I get chills hearing that. Right, that's so impactful that and unexpected. Right, you probably were thinking he was going to say, "Hey, Mike, this is great," or "You guys came through," or one of these other terms of gratitude, and that's just a different road he went on. Amazing. So as we're here, we're in late February recording this. What can we look for Habitat for Humanity from your division, your operation the rest of the year? What's up, and what are you guys looking forward to?
Yeah, so 2025 is a huge year for our affiliate. First off, it's our 40th anniversary. So we've been in operation for 40 years. The majority of the homes we've built have been in the last 12 years, but it's a huge, milestone for us. in addition to the 40th anniversary, we're actually going to be celebrating our 1000th home completion, which again is a huge milestone within the habitat world. So that's coming up probably in the summertime. Something really cool we're working on. We're actually filming an episode with HGTV. So if you're familiar with the show 100 Day Dream Home, Mika and Brian, who are the hosts, are from the Tampa Bay region, and they were looking to partner up with Habitat. They're going into their 6th season. And as the top rated show on HGTV, they have a little bit of say now in the way that they produce their show. And so they said, hey, look, we typically build these $1 million homes with families, and we really want to put a spotlight on Habitat and break down some of the misconceptions about the organization. And so we've partnered with them. We have a family in St. Petersburg, and Lace and her 2 daughters. Lace works at one of the local automotive dealers here, and she's going through our program, and so we've partnered her up with them, and they're helping us to build her house in 100 days and to really tell the story about Habitat, which will obviously be seen not just locally, not just nationally, but it's actually, I think they're viewed in like 40 countries around the world. So yeah, when I was talking to Brian from the show, he was telling me it's really cool when they dub over the voices in other countries. So you get to see your voice,
Right.
in these different languages. So I can't wait to see that and see which one I like the best.
Right. French Mike sounds good, Excellent. Mike Sutton, Habitat for Humanity, Tampa Bay Gulfside. Thank you for joining us on the From the Corner Office podcast. Thank you for listening to the Business Observer From the Corner Office podcast. I'm your host, Mark Gordon. This podcast was produced by Reed Corley of the Corley Company in Sarasota. To hear more episodes of From the Corner Office podcast, go to businessobserverfl.com.